Let's see, how's that?
I hear you well.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
very well. I don't have
And, well, now I don't hear an echo, so I guess it was my headset.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad we figured it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling okay.
Second, I'm kind of just moving things around here. I don't know where the things. Yeah, me too. I am. It's interesting with with timings, and lately I'm realizing how hard it is for me actually to work with time.
Uh-huh.
I have this need for like organic um, things, but it's also hard to really orchestrate things without time. But I do realize that my ideal is like basically, yeah, I'm kind of just meditating on, how much, you know, appointments and stuff stress me out in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
I,
but I also don't know a better way to do it. At least, well, in person I do, and especially like with the people I'm living close to, because then we might bump into each other, or it seems like there's more
right.
capacity for flow.
Yeah, I think if you live with people, you kind of start harmonizing, and things kind of just flow in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, I was thinking of, do you like the video on? Or would you rather the video not on?
I guess I'd rather off, because that way I can also like put away groceries and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll keep it off for now. Yeah, I was thinking of just talking and recording it, and just very relaxed. And I was thinking, if there is, I would like to just talk about things, and if there's anything that later you're like, oh, I actually don't really want to share this with people, I can always take it out or cut it out, or that way you don't have to stress about anything.
Gotcha.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, yeah, for the most part, I don't know anything that I don't want shared that I talk about, but yeah, but I'll keep that in mind.
Cool. It's always possible it comes up. And... All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I was had some questions I was interested in. With your with your work, it sounds like you massage people, and usually you massage people who are working through some kind of trauma. Is that right?
Well, either that or they have a physical injury.
Yeah.
So my preference, or like my passion, is working with people who have had some kind of trauma, and I do get the privilege of doing that with several folks. But I would create, well, maybe half of them. Well, I guess more than half. It's more of a physical injury I'm working with.
Yeah.
But I still bring in trauma-informed practices. Things like consent-based. Of course, everything is consent-based, but it's stuff like asking what somebody wants in a certain scenario versus asking if I can do something. Like I work with, let's say, the psoas muscle, which I work through the belly. And for people who've never had psoas massage or belly massage, that can be kind of, it might be too intimate.
Yeah.
And I won't know that, especially for people who it's kind of their habit to say yes to things and not pay attention to
yeah
what they are actually feeling.
Yeah.
And so, but then I'll describe, let's say I think SOAS work would be beneficial for what they're coming in for, what they're coming for. I will tell them, I'll tell them about SOAS work and then ask, would you like that, or do you want to wait and let's try something else? Or like I'll give them options, and if somebody seems hesitant, I'll even say, we can also, there's more things we can do to address this area or to address this issue. If you're uncomfortable with it, fine. But I guess giving them options and trying to put the ball back in their court. But also body language and talking more slowly, moving more slowly, and then even in my touch, using slow touch, slow pressure, or slow movements, so that their nervous systems don't get startled at all.
Yeah. So you really know how to work with people's nervous system.
I would say that most of my work is with their nervous system. And if I can get their nervous system to trust me and trust that they're safe in my care, it will much more likely respond to the work.
Right, I can imagine. The belly massage sounds awesome. I actually had that done to me 20 years ago, and it was such an amazing experience. It was by a massage therapist too, and I remember just not even knowing it. It was so novel, the deep sensations and emotions I felt. I remember being in heaven. I was like, how am I not doing this every day? I felt kind of actually feelings of in loveness, this, not that I actually was in love with the person, but it touched that feeling of in love. I was very impacted by it.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I love hearing that.
I really like you talking about it, because I actually haven't thought about it much, but I remember I was like, wow, I should. Yeah, that's really good, because I'm also always thinking about eventually living in kind of a community with people, and I can imagine it if belly massages are part of that. That can be very collectively healing.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. And so you usually have people that come with a physical injury, you said?
Will you repeat yourself?
Oh, you said usually you have people coming to you with a physical injury, but you still work with kind of general trauma, emotional or mental trauma techniques as well.
Yes, some of it is really and if somebody is asking specifically for trauma-informed care, then I can also do some of the coaching with it. So I might do somatic dialogue, which is some conversation, or coaching them to feel their sensations, find a resource that helps them feel a sense of safety if they start to feel sensations that are uncomfortable. And and then we're just keeping them in a place where they're doing okay, not re-traumatizing anybody. But if somebody doesn't ask specifically for trauma-informed work, then really working more just with the nervous system stuff and not anything verbally. Not really. So it can be more explicit or not.
I see. I was wondering if there's anything common traumas that you see in people? Like
Yeah.
my perception is that almost everyone in this world at this day and age is traumatized in one way
Yeah.
or another. Basically, just being
Yeah.
exposed to the current culture is a form of trauma in
Mhm.
itself. I was wondering what your experiences with that.
Yeah. So the traumas that come up pretty consistently are childhood violence and or abandonment.
Uh-huh.
So usually violence by the caregivers,
Uh-huh.
um, and or just an absent, either emotionally absent or. And when I say violence, what I mean is it could be physical violence. Often it's emotional violence. So
Yeah, yeah.
especially um, being in a household where emotions are not okay,
Yeah.
or where the caregiver is not predictable. Like they might get really angry really quickly with no predictable reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would say that just a lot of childhood violence, really,
And so
exposure to that.
you see that people not being able to have or feel safe to express their emotions is kind of a common traumatizing factor.
Yes, for sure.
Did you feel that yourself when you grew
Hmm.
up?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, I mean, my family was taught that we're supposed to, be tough and not cry, but also um, we're supposed to do what we're told, and anger was not allowed,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
least not by the kids.
Yeah.
Anger was met with punishment or violence in some way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So you really learned how to suppress your anger pretty well um and
Mm-hmm.
basically always look like you're okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I relate to
Until
that.
I couldn't, and then just explode.
What?
Yeah, until like I couldn't suppress it, and then it would explode.
Yeah, I can relate. What would your explosions look like?
It would look like, um, well, I guess as a kid, often it might be like passive aggression
Mm-hmm.
or being totally shut down, like aloof,
Yeah.
or like internally seething, but silent on the outside.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and then to my younger siblings, it would look like physical violence. So I might hit them or yell at them, or
Mm-hmm.
if I was by myself, I might like throw something and break it, or um, stomp around or something.
Yeah.
But often it would be, or I mean, a lot of times it was also anger that was turned on myself. So
Yeah.
then I would have violent thoughts toward myself, like "you're stupid" or
Yeah.
"you're a horrible person," or things like that. Just self rejection,
Right.
being mean myself.
Yeah.
Um,
I think if you don't have
yeah.
healthy ways to channel that energy, it's always going to be destructive
Mm-hmm.
towards other people or yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
I really relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's intense. I think a lot of people relate to that. I actually feel like
Mm.
only in the last 10 years I've kind of started healing from that anger suppression
Mm.
myself, where I actually, Chad is like the only person who's ever actually celebrated my anger. He is basically always begging me to
Wow.
express more because he knows how important it is and how, um, and I didn't take it serious. And sometimes I realized that I actually, um, despite all his encouragement, I would still suppress it to the point that there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of, I see now that there was a lot of passive aggressive energies that were very,
Yeah.
very destructive. And that's why I have lately I've gotten extra humble with like, wow, I have to take care of um, basically my subconscious, because it is very it will ruin things. Passive aggressive energy like finds all sorts of ways to hurt things. And I have this programming that wants to not, almost like, not believe it. um but but I'm really waking up to how much it is there. That's why. And that's why I'm celebrating how special it is, because most of my life, like as a kid, I was shamed every time I would be angry, especially towards my family. They would make me feel really mean and evil, and like sometimes even get suicidal. Or so I have this belief that if I feel anger, like people are gonna get really mad or gonna start dying. And so I did some deep repressing of that. And um and now I have someone in my life that really like can handle it, and that it's hard, because most people don't really appreciate anger, and they don't really know how to hold space for that, or listen to that, or not take it personal. So yeah, I'm kind of in my personal celebration um,
I
phase
love
here.
that.
Yeah,
I love how you say that he celebrates your anger,
exactly. It's not
because
just
that's different than
tolerating
just
it.
tolerating
One, yeah, it's a huge difference if someone's like, okay, I'll accept it or I'll work with it. But like when you're being celebrated for your full humanness, it's a different it's a
it.
different thing. Then you start getting
Mm,
excited.
hmm
Yeah, so
That's very cool.
I really like talking about this because I feel like it's such a big part of well-being, like personal well-being, but also
Mm,
well-being in relationships and in communities. I think that a lot of times when there's issues in communities, it is because there's a lot of repressed emotions and stuff like that.
yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
so,
I could see that for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Mm,
for me, it's an ongoing process of kind of, evolution, and it's not always easy to figure out how to deal with things, but I do believe that when people prioritize things, they'll figure it out eventually.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And gosh, I feel like it's an evolution. I like how you put that.
Hmm.
It's definitely an evolution for you. Even like occasionally I get like there's been a handful of times where I got really angry
Yeah.
with circumstances and things, and around Azure, and then he might do something that just like sets me off. And there've been a few times where I've smacked him, and of course, like growing up, that's just how the adults, the caregivers, would respond
Hmm.
to the kids if they were um, not behaving in the ways that the caregivers wanted,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's that like knee-jerk reaction sort of trained in,
Hmm.
and I hate it. I hate that it's there,
Hmm.
and um, I also like try to give myself grace because I am paying attention, and I am looking for better ways, like to figure out my part in it.
Hmm.
Instead of just thinking like, oh, this child is acting out, or it's the child's fault.
Hmm.
Well, no, it's not. It, it's like we're having an engagement together that isn't working, probably for both of us.
Yes.
So maybe I have scheduled myself way too many things to do,
Hmm.
or set expectations that are unrealistic and unreasonable
Yeah. Yeah.
on myself. And
And
then the reality is he has a lot of needs. And the other reality that kind of goes back to the toxicity of the culture
hmm.
is that there aren't many adults in his daily life who can take care of his needs.
Yeah.
And so it's me, most, and his dad. And fortunately for us, his dad works from home most of the time. So if I if I start getting, like, feeling myself get angry and overwhelmed, or like there's just too much, then I'll ask his dad to take over for a little while.
Yeah,
Give me
yeah.
a baby break.
Right.
But
Totally. You
but,
you
like,
have
even
compassion for
two
yourself.
of us,
Huh? No, keep going.
even just two of us isn't enough. Like, I imagine in a healthy culture, a healthy society where there's tribe around, then the child a lot more people who can take care of his needs, and the adults, that any one caregiver isn't
Solely
demanded
respond.
of
Yeah.
so much.
I hear you.
And so there's more spaciousness.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Right. That's it. I think it's very unnatural. Like, I think most of human history is not like families haven't been raised, or children haven't been raised like this. I think there's almost always been all sorts of other family members and community members that were part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to be like, to give yourself grace, like you said. And also, from my own experience, I feel like children actually, to some degree, benefit from some roughness, and from I also see the world as like it kind of prepares kids for the world, because I actually feel like I grew up too soft in some ways. Like, my mom would never yell at me or even take care of herself. She never was just like grumpy and just assertive. And then when I was older and went into the world, I really didn't know how to handle it well, when people would just be, like, people are always going to be grumpy or mean, and so my sister expressed the same thing, where she was like, I don't feel like, it was kind of a shock to go into the world. And I actually, I'm not talking about like, extreme, like, I'm not talking in an abusive sense, but I do feel like some physical and energetic harshness is healthy for children, especially boys. I feel like they have a need for strengthening, and like, that's why, they are also, they tend to fight with each other to develop. And I noticed with Nim that once I got over the idea that he could never get spanked, and once I did start doing that at times, he actually looked a lot happier and calmer, and I would do it. I grew up with the belief that it's never permitted, and so it was hard for me to even do that. But once I did, I feel like it had very positive effects, especially when it's in the right timing, not like as a standard response to anything, but I feel like there is a time and place and way that can be a healthy element of children growing up.
I have experienced that. Like, Asher is definitely, he's very physical. He's quite confident physically and strong, and he's bigger than most of the kids his age. And so he'll like go up and punch other kids.
Yeah.
Push them over, tackle them to the ground.
Oh, maybe he's getting ready to be a wrestler or a martial artist.
Yeah, and he says he wants to fight, which actually I want to find a way to channel that in a healthy way. But anyway, when I've told him, like, different times, he'll like come punch me, and I'll be like, no, I don't like that, and then he'll do it again and say, no, I don't like that, and he'll do it again, and so I'll do it back.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think in that, in that circumstance, it feels like he's actually asking for it. Like he wants, to me it sounds like he actually wants a certain kind of development. Just like if you observe animals, you see that the cubs, like the are often like kind of pushing the mom until she snaps and snarls and kind of like bites, but not like in a lethal way or something. And I've seen this over and over in these animal documentaries, and I was like, see, there is a natural element of that. It's not all bad, you know. And there's somewhere, like even deer, sometimes they start kind of kicking their young when it's time for them to kind of like move out of a baby phase and kind of get a little stronger. And so I think there's a lot of, yeah, like culture always makes it like very black and white, like it's totally bad or totally good. But I think there is like, if your priority is well-being and you keep kind of like aiming for doing the right thing, I believe your intuition tells you what's right. And for every kid and every situation, it's different. Like I remember even that my brother, he told me that he wanted to get spanked by my grandma, and my mom wouldn't do it because she thought, she had a different philosophy. But he would just he started bullying us as kids so much. And when my grandma was around, she wouldn't tolerate it. She was like, you stop bullying now. And he wouldn't. And then she would spank him, and he was the best kid ever after that. And he told her and us, he said, oh, I was needing that so bad. I don't know why, but I needed it. And he respected her, and he was very disrespectful to us and my mom. And like, he somehow needed that for his, but that's interesting. That's interesting data. That's why I feel like
that is really interesting, because I guess like as you're telling me this, I kind of want to reconsider. Like I think I clump all, like every time I've hit Azure. Well, no, I guess okay. When I hit him out of anger and reaction, that's when I feel really bad.
Yeah.
But when it's calculated.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, then I don't feel bad.
I know what you mean.
Like
because
that probably helpful.
Because you don't feel good about just taking out your own frustration on someone else. But if it is an aligned, inspired, basically symbiotic action that results in him being better and you being better, then that's a different thing. Yeah, I find this very interesting. I was also thinking about how our sons are in foster care right now, and so Nim was put in an abusive foster home the first time, where he was physically getting beat up by older kids. And he described later how well he did with it. And part of it, he realized too, was that we had done so much physical training since he was young, like a lot of wrestling and martial arts. And, and so he knew how to kind of like defend himself and deal with roughness, deal with violence, deal with aggression. And that is something I realized I did not grow up with at all. I did not. And I'm not saying like nobody wanted him to be in that situation, but you never know what life will do. Life is very unpredictable. And I did realize, I was grateful that he was trained well to do as well as he could under that very hard situation.
That's awesome. I was thinking, I think it was maybe 2 days ago, or it was last night, I was thinking about how so my father was pretty strict with us, and he was often about discipline and punishment.
Yeah.
And my mom didn't want any of it. She was very permissive and passive because she was beat quite a bit when she was a kid, and so she didn't want to hurt her kids.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
my brother, who's 10 years younger than me, he has, in a way, described how he really needed her to not be so nice.
Yeah.
To instead, like, give him limits and
Yeah.
whatnot. But I was thinking about how the adverse effects I've experienced have helped me